Today, I'm sharing a personal journey, how I hit millionaire status by 30, all while earning a pretty average income. No luck, no lottery wins, no Silicon Valley level tech job. Just a practical step-by-step strategy that I like to call the lazy strategy. It wasn't about doing nothing. It was about making every decision and every dollar work for me. This is a breakdown of exactly how I did it, and as we go through each step, I will be highlighting the lessons learned. Starting off, I didn't have a high-paying job or connections. Fresh out of college, not earning much, and trying to make sense of adulthood. My first real job was a 9 to 5 that paid enough to cover my rent, groceries, and some modest fun on weekends. At that point, becoming a millionaire wasn't even on my radar. My goal was simple: make enough to live comfortably and avoid financial stress. I just wanted to stop stressing about bills. No fancy spreadsheets or intense saving strategies. But something clicked when I looked at older colleagues. Some of them were stuck, barely making ends meet despite earning more than me, and others seemed to be thriving. The difference, the thriving ones had mapped out success plans. So I sat down, got honest about my finances, and decided I wasn't going to let my paycheck dictate my life. Just a gut feeling that I wanted more out of life than worrying about money. I wasn't willing to make huge sacrifices. No quitting my job to day trade or risking everything on a single investment. Instead, I leaned into practical, consistent steps that any one of us could take, like finding ways to reduce and save on monthly expenses, building good credit, and starting a savings plan that didn't demand too much effort or thought. The focus wasn't on doing more. It was on setting things in motion that would gradually, reliably get me there. And here is where I learned my first lesson: understand where you are before deciding where you want to go. Now, here's where a lot of people miss out. Your job isn't just a paycheck. It's a stepping stone if you know how to leverage it. One of the first things I did was take full advantage of every benefit my employer offered. They had a 401k match. I maxed it out. I looked into health savings accounts, employee stock options, and even education reimbursements. My goal was to use these tools to build a base that would grow without needing to constantly inject more time and energy into it. This was free money, but so many of us overlook it. In addition to using benefits, I took advantage of every skill-building opportunity. If they offered free training, I signed up. If they reimbursed tuition, I used it to take courses that could boost my career. Every new skill or certification added value to me as an employee, which eventually translated into a promotion and pay raise. And the second lesson here was: don't just do your job. Think about how you can use your employer to build your future. It's not just about the paycheck, it's about the perks, benefits, and opportunities that come with it. The opportunity gap was probably the most essential part of this strategy. The opportunity gap is basically the difference between what you bring in and what you spend. The wider that gap, the more you have to work with. My mission was to widen this gap, not by making drastic cuts to my lifestyle, but by taking a balanced approach. When I started out, my income and expenses were neck and neck. Sound familiar? A little too much takeout, a few impulsive buys, and suddenly I had no wiggle room. So I made two major changes. First, I cut unnecessary expenses. I didn't go overboard. This wasn't about deprivation. I just made small, consistent changes. Cooked at home more. Bought quality clothes that lasted instead of impulse buying every month. I also negotiated my utility bills with my landlord, cutting unnecessary subscriptions and using reward systems to lower costs. These tiny tweaks added up quickly. Second, I focused on increasing my income. I looked into side gigs that didn't require much time or mental energy. I started offering simple graphic design freelance work, designed and sold designs on free print-on-demand platforms like Merch by Amazon, Redbubble, and Society6, and even sold unused items online. The goal wasn't to earn a ton extra, but just to build a consistent stream that could funnel straight into savings and investments. I resisted the urge to upgrade my lifestyle every time my income grew. Lesson 3 learned is, opportunity gaps should be a golden ticket to help you increase your earnings. The more I grew it, the more I had to reach $1 million in net worth. Now, here's where things get interesting. With that extra money saved from widening the opportunity gap, I was able to start investing. The key here wasn't picking the perfect stock or timing the market. It was just starting and staying consistent. My first investment was an index fund. Why? Because they're simple, low cost, and proven to grow over time. I didn't have to be a financial genius to understand the S&P 500. It's basically a snapshot of the biggest companies in the US. As those companies grew, so did my investments. I also discovered dividend-paying stocks. These are companies that pay you a portion of their profits just for holding their shares. The first time I got a dividend payment, it was tiny, like less than the cost of a coffee. But it hit me. This was passive income, money I didn't have to work for. Over time, I used the 8-4-3 rule of compounding to diversify my investments to increase my investment earnings. Some in real estate through REITs, real estate investment trusts, a bit in high-yield savings accounts to increase my emergency fund and no-guilt fund for use as I wish, and the rest in low-maintenance funds. The plan was simple: put money in consistently, reinvest the dividends, and let compound growth work its magic. This all went smoothly for me as I was disciplined in paying my debt on time without any default. Whenever there was a month I earned extra income than the previous months, then that money went into paying off debt that I had. So saving and investing became much more easier as I already paid my bills and debt. And here is where I learned my fourth lesson: build up your assets. Every dollar saved and invested was a soldier in my army working to build wealth. Now, here's where it gets fun. Think of this as jumping from one opportunity to the next, each one building on the last. The hopscotch strategy was my way of keeping my money moving in a way that avoided unnecessary taxes and maximized growth. For example, I would keep enough money in a high-yield savings account for emergencies, but anything beyond that would hop into my investments. Another example is me starting freelancing to boost my income and then using that extra cash to pay off my debt and increase my savings. Also, with the free skill-building opportunity offered by my workplace, I was able to learn high-income skills that helped me get another job with a higher salary when I was laid off. I used that salary increase to invest more aggressively in my tax-advantaged retirement account and brokerage accounts, which created more passive income. This hopscotching allowed me to grow my investments in a tax-advantaged way, and because I started young, this extra layer of growth made a huge difference by the time I was nearing 30. Lesson 5 learned: take risks early in life when building wealth. The earlier you start, the more time you have to recover from mistakes made in the journey to becoming a millionaire. To achieve this on a low to medium income required a mental shift, adopting what I'd call the millionaire mindset. First, I had to see wealth as something attainable, even with limited means. I dropped limiting beliefs and stopped thinking of $1 million as something reserved for the elite. Instead, I believed it was something within reach, and that belief influenced every choice I made. Also, habits were another backbone of this strategy. From budgeting regularly and automating my savings to investing a set amount each month without fail, these habits took the emotion out of the process. I also practiced patience and developed the ability to resist lifestyle inflation. When my income increased, I didn't immediately upgrade my life. I let my investments grow first, which led to real, sustainable growth without needing to sacrifice my financial future. Lesson 6 learned: Your mindset reshaped how you approach wealth, and developing success habits leads you to making that first million. What ultimately brought me success wasn't just these tactics and strategies, but the critical success factors behind them. The main one? Consistency. Staying on course through market changes, life events, and temptations to spend was key. I also stayed adaptable and patient. The world changes fast, and I didn't want to be too rigid in my approach. I'd reevaluate my budget, investment choices, and strategies regularly to make sure they aligned with both my goals and current market conditions. Also, being patient enabled compound interest work from my investments and increased my net worth to a millionaire even faster. And finally, I stayed educated. Every 2 to 3 months, I'd make a point of learning something new about finances, whether it was reading a book or following up on investment trends. Success isn't just about what you do, it's about doing it consistently and adapting when needed. And here's a secret: I did it scared, without full knowledge of everything I needed to reach that first million. This lazy strategy wasn't perfect or glamorous, but it worked for me. In essence, this journey wasn't about extreme strategies, luck, or even a high income. It was about building consistent habits, using already available tools, and playing the long game. And if I could do it on a low to medium income, there's a good chance you can replicate it. If you're watching this and feeling like financial freedom is out of reach, let me tell you, it's not. This was the lazy way to wealth, a path that's as effective as it is accessible, designed to grow wealth one step at a time. Start where you are, use what you have, and take one small step today. Your future self will thank you.